When it comes to the Ja Morant situation, which was LaVar's ugly in our Good, Bad, and Ugly a short time ago.
I mean, would you guys agree?
Yeah, it's not a great look for anybody involved. And so now the conversation turns to what happens now.
Yeah, don't you guys feel like that is a significantly great question? How harsh should the penalty be? Because, again, whether people want to acknowledge this or not, you could be as offended by this as you like. You could kiss my ass. It is a privilege to be able to make the type of money that guys make playing professional sports. It is not anything else. It's not a right. It's not your right. It's a privilege. And with that being said, you earn the opportunity to be able to be privileged enough to be compensated for playing a professional sport. So when you make a mistake, you get reprimanded for it, you get a penalty for it, you're punished for it, you learn from it, you show attrition, and is it attrition? Contrition. You show contrition, and you show some remorse, and you show understanding that what you did was incorrect, and you're going to be better for it moving forward. When you don't do that, to me, you're disqualifying your right. You're disqualifying that privilege to be able to participate. Like, and I don't find that to be egregious. I don't find that to be too aggressive. To do this 2 times in the amount of time that he's done it, I wouldn't be. I would seriously think that the NBA should consider suspending him for a season. Not for a couple games, for a season. And you know what? If you make this same mistake again, then, I mean, I think we got to ban you from the league until further conversations need to take place. But I don't think that with all of the things that are going on as it applies to firearms in America, and you don't need to be a freaking brain surgeon to see all of the mass shootings that are taking place and all of the gun violence and all of the gun conversations that are taking place in America. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that this is part of what's going on in our society right now. This is a problem. And you have a stalwart, you have a megastar who's brandishing a firearm and doing it recklessly and loosely out here in these streets. If you want that to be the example and the standard that you're setting as the National Basketball Association, that you're okay with one of your star employees doing this, then, you know, I think you have to accept the consequences and the repercussions that go along with you allowing for this to actually be minimized and be okay. I don't think you can minimize it, and I don't think you can allow for it to just be okay. That's my take on it.
Well, Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, was asked about this last night on ESPN, about his thoughts initially when he saw the video and also what a potential punishment or what the ramifications could be. Here was the NBA commish.
Honestly, I was shocked when I saw this weekend that video. Now, we're in the process of investigating it, and we'll figure out exactly what happened to the best we can then. It's the video's a bit grainy and all that, but I'm assuming the worst, you know, but we'll figure out, you know, exactly what happened there. The consequences there, an 8-game suspension was pretty serious and something that he, at least to me, seemed to take incredibly seriously in that time. And we spoke for a long time about not just the consequences that could have on his career, but the safety issues around it. Could have injured, maimed, killed himself, someone else with an act like that. And also the acknowledgement that, as you said, he's a star. I mean, he has an incredibly huge following. Yeah. And that my concern, and I thought he shared with me, that millions, if not tens of millions of kids globally would see him as having done something that was celebrating in a way, that act.
I mean, if you're
celebrating being a thug is what he wanted to say. Like, let's just be clear. What he was trying to dance around, because culturally speaking, he doesn't want to get canceled by cancel culture. But the whole word thug, that's synonymous with anytime somebody of color does something incorrect, he wanted to dance around it. But be clear, Ja Morant is doing things with a firearm that portrays him in the light of being a thug. Period. And if you want to be offended by a black man saying another black man is doing acts that portray them in the light and in the way of being a thug, be my guest. I have absolutely zero issue with it. If you got a problem with me because I'm saying it, be my guest. Have a problem with me, because you know what? Chances are you're probably a thug too. Or you harbor one, you raised one, you own one, whatever it may be. You got one on your hands if you got a problem with what I'm saying. Because if you're okay with what Ja Morant is doing and damaging his career the way that he's doing it, unnecessarily, unneeded, unwarranted, for no reason whatsoever, that's what Silver wanted to say. If we're being real about it, if we're going to keep it 100% a buck from the hip, that's the problem here. He makes himself look like a thug. He makes your league look like you're condoning having thugs in your league. Period. That's what he wanted to say without getting canceled. So he couldn't say it the way he wanted to say it. But I'll say it here on Two Pros and a Cup of Joe. That's what he meant. That's what he wanted to say. And he would not have been incorrect in saying so.
Adam Silver's got to lay the hammer down.
Yeah, I was going to take a little different approach to this in talking about it, in the sense that of all the commissioners, Adam Silver tries to be the good guy. He tries to be friends with everyone. He tries to be likable. Where's that got in the NBA? In all seriousness, like, if I was an NBA owner, I would be so incredibly hard on Adam Silver to be like Roger Goodell. And the interesting thing about Roger Goodell is he's very polarizing. Most people don't like him, or maybe there's some hatred towards him, if you want to use that word. But the truth of the matter is, the NFL is by far and away the most healthy and best professional sport in America, maybe even the world. And in large part, you can look at the success and the way it's pulled away from other professional sports and attribute it to when Roger Goodell took over as commissioner. He's stern with how he's handled matters like this under player conduct policy, which was always within the collective bargaining agreement, mind you. The commissioner's powers to do what he has done, what Roger Goodell has done to discipline players. It was always in there. It was never enforced the way Roger Goodell has. And maybe even he's led up to some degree over the years as they've encountered different obstacles. But he has put the NFL in this position because he's taken on the villain role, where he's okay being booed by the masses when he walks out during the draft, or booed when he walks into a stadium, or where merch is made about him, with a clown nose, whatever the case. He's okay with that. You want to know why? Because he's being paid a ridiculous amount of money to run the best professional sports league in America. And he's okay with being the villain. He's okay with being the bad guy. He's okay with doing the work that has to be done in order to make sure every single owner's happy. If there's any issue with a player and their conduct, it's going to be addressed. It's going to be handled. It may not always be perfect, because every scenario or situation is unique. And there's legal matters that play a role too, along with the judicial system that plays a role. But you couldn't find, in my opinion, two further commissioners in the manner in which they handle themselves, where Adam Silver just wants to be liked by everyone, which just wants to get along. And Roger Goodell could give two craps. He could care less, because he knows there's stars coming up every single year in the league, which you could make the case, yeah, NBA stars tend to last a little bit longer, and they've got more sway, but in part because there hasn't been that line drawn. There hasn't. And this is an area specifically that Adam Silver should put his foot down and be cognizant of everything else like LaVar's talking about that's going on in our country, in our society, and start trying to become a bad guy. And whether that fits him or not, so be it. But if I don't know even who the strongest owners are in the NBA, but I'd be calling them right now and being like, you got to do something about this. Like before a tragedy happens with Ja Morant or another athlete. Because that's the other thing, what happens when you allow Ja Morant to continue this pattern, it only opens up then the possibility of other players to follow suit, knowing that these are the repercussions they're going to face. Adam Silver is going to potentially set a precedent one way or another, whether he punishes Ja Morant and the length at which he does it, or if he doesn't and he lets him off soft. You're going to find other players that eventually find themselves in this situation, and they're going to say, well, I know I can get away with it because we've got a soft commissioner. He's not going to punish me the way it was if it was a different professional sport. I mean, that's the other thing that needs to be factored in here, is at some point Adam Silver has to put his foot down, and he can't be everyone's friend. He's got to be the commissioner of the NBA.